everybody, and welcome to the Environmental Learning Center at Clackamas Community College. I'm Maggie, an educator here at the ELC, and this is week 9 of our Wetland Wildlife livestream series, where each week we learn about a different animal that calls the wetland their home. So we've already learned about a ton of amazing creatures, including beavers and salamanders and many more, and this week we are going to be learning about the fantastic fox. Very excited. Like our friend the coyote, foxes are also a really important canine predator here at Wetlands. And I'm super excited to be learning more about them with you all. So the ELC is a wetland, meaning it is an area of land that is covered in water. And one of the coolest things about wetlands is the fact that they slow down, cool off, and filter the water, resulting in really cool, slow-moving, clean water for all types of plants and animals to enjoy, including our friend the fox. So in order to better get to know this guy, we are going to be taking a closer look at this mount. We're going to be looking for aspects or parts of a habitat for the fox right here where I'm standing. And we're also going to be checking out a little burrow that I found, which is going to be very exciting. And maybe watch a quick little video as well if we have time. But super excited. Before we get into it, I'd like to introduce Michelle, our camera person, who will be monitoring the Zoom chat. So if you have any questions about foxes at any point during today's live stream, please make sure to put them in the Zoom chat, and I will make time at the very end to answer all your questions. You also hopefully should have an activity sheet in front of you titled Fantastic Foxes. And this sheet has 2 sections. The top is just a little fill in the blank about different aspects of habitat that you should be able to fill out by the time you finish this live stream. And then the bottom section is what we call a food chain, which shows us what animals eat and what those animals eat. So you'll be able to draw your own little creatures and create your own food chain. Very exciting. Alrighty, so let's get into what exactly a fox is. Like I mentioned, a fox is a canine, which means they are very closely related to coyotes, wolves, and dogs. So you can see there's quite a few things about a fox that, make it pretty clear that they are a canine. They've got, those paws that you've probably seen on a dog. They have omnivore teeth, so they have really sharp teeth near the front, and then they've got flatter molars in the back, which lets them eat both plants and animals. So the types of things that foxes eat is a lot of times the small animals that they hunt, but it can also be plants and berries and other things. So foxes also have really great ears, so they're able to hear a really wide range of sounds, from a little rodent scurrying somewhere to a little high-pitched squeak. And the fact that they can hear that so far away makes them really good hunters. And I think their strategy of hunting is really cute. I know it's probably not cute for the animal that's being hunted, but they do this really cute pouncing onto what they're catching. And so they'll jump really high into the air, land down on a mouse or whatever they're catching, and pin it down with their feet, and then start eating it. And it's really cool. Another really great adaptation, so thing about a fox's body that makes them really cool, is their fur. So as you can see, they have this really nice fluffy fur. This is a red fox, which is a specific type of fox, very common here in Oregon. And their fur pattern specifically, they have what we call, socks. The fact that their ankles and feet or the lower parts of their legs are darker than the rest of them, so it looks like they have a dark pair of socks on. But then they also have this beautiful reddish color with a bright white tail. So sometimes from a distance, it can kind of be difficult to determine if what you're looking at is a fox or a coyote, because they look kind of similar. But oftentimes, if you see a bright white tip of a tail and the tail is almost touching the ground, you can pretty confidently say that it is a fox. I also feel like foxes have a lot more agility in the way that they move. They're known for being pretty small, I think 2 to 3 feet from the tip of the nose to the base, so not including the tail. But they're really good at getting into really small spaces. So an adult fox can actually get into a 4x4 inch square hole. So even though this guy looks pretty big, he can get really small and into little crevices. And I think that's one of the coolest things about foxes as well. But yeah, so I have a couple different fur patterns here So red foxes are, of course, named after the fact that they have this beautiful red fur, but they actually can come in some other colors as well. Sometimes they look a little more tan, sometimes they look a little more gray, but this guy, of course, is very beautiful and iconic. And then we have another species of fox here that's a little bit smaller. That is the common gray fox. So this fox is a little less likely to be seen by people because the red fox, like our friend the raccoon or coyote, have become really good at living near humans. So they're able to, kind of just be active at night or during the early morning or the late evening, and then, kind of be asleep or just hiding from us during the day. And because of that, they're able to live um, really close to us. But these guys tend to live a little more out in nature, away from people. But as you can see, they've got this beautiful gray color with a little bit lighter face, tail, and paws, which is super beautiful. Yeah. I also have a couple photos of two different species, one of which is the gray fox that I just showed you. So these guys, another thing I love about the gray fox is the fact that they can climb trees. So there's a lot, I believe they're the only canine that climbs trees really often in order to get food and in order to have shelter. And so they have specific adaptations with their paws that allows them to climb really well, which is super cool. And then the other fox that I have spotted there on that slide is a Sierra Nevada fox, which is a pretty rare fox here in Oregon. Scientists are working really hard to figure out where they are and keep track of how many of them there are because they're spotted so rarely, but they're also the type of fox to be farther away from people and in higher elevation. So they like to live on mountains. They're really good at hunting in the snow, which is super cool. And yeah, so if you see any sort of red fox or gray fox or anything like that, that is potentially what species they are, which is super fun. So foxes, especially the red fox, can find habitat pretty much anywhere, just like our friend the raccoon or coyote, but they particularly love wetlands because wetlands provide a ton of water and food and shelter. And so just from where I'm standing right now, we can actually see a lot of different food opportunities that a fox would like to have. So firstly, this morning, actually, I saw a rabbit scurry its way across this trail, which a fox would absolutely be very happy to eat that rabbit. There's also plenty of squirrels and chipmunks around here, as well as small birds flying overhead. But one thing that I actually just noticed is it looks like somebody here had a snack of a little mallard egg. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Foxes will happily eat bird eggs if they find them, and it looks like somebody right here at the edge of the water found one themselves. So mallard eggs are about the same size as a chicken egg, but they tend to be kind of a pale light green color. And as we can see on this rock here, there is a broken up shell. So it looks like some creature broke it open and ate out all of the delicious egg on the inside and left the shell behind. And so that could have been a fox, that could have been a raccoon, that could have been a coyote. There's so many different creatures, even a rat or some other rodent. And yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, but a fox definitely could have been the one to do that. Yeah, we also have plenty of vegetation around here at the ELC, lots of berries and nuts. A fox would also absolutely happily eat some fruit as well, and also insects. I've seen them eat grasshoppers and lots of other creatures like that as well. So they're another predator that's really adaptable of being able to eat all types of different things. So that's the food that the fox finds here at the ELC. They also find plenty of water. They can drink from puddles and ponds. But another super important thing is shelter and a place to raise their young. So for shelter, Foxes, just adult foxes, will kind of find wherever they can, under a tree, a log, just kind of curl up somewhere. But when it comes to raising their young, they're very particular about where they raise their young. So they like to have their kids and raise them in what we call a den, which is a burrow in the ground. So foxes will either find a hole that's already been dug and they'll move in, or they will dig a hole themselves. And sometimes they can get really complex. There can be tunnels going all types of different ways. And there actually are a couple burrows here at the ELC. So I want to show you a quick photo of one. So right here we have a burrow, and this is one of the burrows that you commonly see where it's kind of underneath a tree. So the roots of the tree are kind of providing structure to the burrow. And so yeah, all types of different creatures could potentially be living in this at any time, because sometimes animals move out, sometimes animals move in. But yeah, that could be a really great example of where a fox would pair up, give birth to babies in, or what we call kits, is what we call baby foxes. And then they would grow up, start to leave the hole, and get older. So yeah, super cool. Great shelter here at the ELC. I also want to talk about the role of foxes in the food chain as well, before we finish up today. So foxes, like I said before, are really important predators. So they eat all types of different things, and they keep down rodent populations and mice populations and rabbits. And they are a really important part of what we call a food chain. So a food chain shows you what a specific animal eats. So here on this food chain, you can see we have a fox, and the fox eats a bird, and that bird eats a snail, and that snail eats some plants. And so that really shows you how, food moves through the system. But one aspect to this cycle that is really interesting is decomposers. So a decomposer is something that breaks down living things after they have died. So that could be a fungus, or it could be an animal. If you've ever seen a compost bin before, if you've ever seen somebody put food scraps in a bin, and then when they open it later, it's a bunch of really nice looking dirt. That's thanks to decomposers breaking down those dead things into really great soil. And so, yeah, that's a really interesting part of the food chain. So with this one, the gray arrows on this food web, which are multiple food chains put together, all show that all living things eventually go to the decomposer. So that's the mushroom that's in the bottom right corner. But yeah, I think decomposers are super cool, super interesting. That's oftentimes where a fox will end up in its food chain, is after it passes away, something will decompose it. Super interesting. Alrighty. I think we have just enough time to watch a quick short little video of a couple fox kits, Sierra Nevada fox kits, messing around. And as we're watching it, I would like you to think about what exactly those kits are doing, and how what they're doing could help them when they get older and they need to hunt. What skills are they getting good at, and how is it important? All right, let's take a look at it. All righty. So what did you notice the kits were doing? I noticed there was firstly a mom fox and a dad fox, and a bunch of kits running around, playing with each other, tussling a little bit. And that's actually super important for them to learn how to hunt when they get older, because they learn all types of good things about how to use their teeth and their paws. And so it's not just all for fun. But already, I hope you enjoyed learning about our friend the fox. I'm so excited to talk with them all. about it with you all, but I would like to, of course, have time to answer all of your questions. So if you have any questions in the chat, I will answer them now. Good question. So somebody asked, how long do foxes live? So they typically live 3 to 5 years, which is pretty short in the wild. Good question. Somebody asked, how many babies do they have? I actually don't know. I think from that video, it looked like there was about like 5 to a kit. But yeah, that'd be a good thing to look up. That's another great question. Somebody asked, how old are they when they leave the den? I know that it takes quite a few weeks for them. They're born without being able to see, and so they have to develop. Their mother nurses them, just like how our mothers nurse us, before they're able to find food on their own. But that'd be a really great thing to look up exactly how long that takes. Good question. Somebody asked, how tall can a fox be? So I know that foxes tend to be 2 to 3 feet long and that they tend to be 8 to 15 pounds, which isn't very heavy. I have a pretty small dog that's 15 pounds. But as for the actual height of it, that's a really great question. I would say probably about this tall. I wish this mount showed the fox standing up so we could get a better idea of that. But yeah, they are a little bit smaller than your typical coyote, if that helps. But all right, thank you so much for all of your great questions. I think foxes are super interesting and cool creatures. I hope to run across one someday. But I hope that you will join us next time for our final live stream on dragonflies, a super fascinating insect. But until then, please take care, get outside, and respect all those who live there. All right, bye.